Caleb Williams, Montez Sweat, and the Chicago Bears take on Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, Quinyon Mitchell, and the Philadelphia Eagles in a huge NFC showdown on Black Friday. This is going to be an awesome game, and we all get to enjoy this game the day after Thanksgiving. Wishing everybody a happy holiday season and some good time with loved ones for the Thanksgiving holiday. Look, this is going to be a great game because you're looking at two teams that at their ceiling can play really high quality offense. Chicago, the reinforcements in the secondary looking to be coming in here in recent weeks with Jaylon Johnson and Kyler Gordon looking to be fully returning to the defense in the back end. So the trajectory for both of these teams is quite positive. Now, for this specific matchup, we do need to get into a key important data point, or a couple data points for that matter. It is recent games against common opponents. I believe that's the best place to start. But before we do, please hit that subscribe button if you have not already to tune into more Blitz with Blinder content. I'm Josh Blinder. I make NFL and college content daily, getting you set and ready for these awesome football matchups that we all love. So let's get right into it. Look, the Chicago Bears had a recent win against the Minnesota Vikings, a game-winning field goal by Cairo Santos. They looked like they had a complete win, up by 13 points. Minnesota comes storming back after a long punt return, and that leads to a two-play drive touchdown for the Vikings. And then Chicago gives up an 84-yard, 86-yard drive touchdown, and then they get the big return from Duvernay and pull that win out. In the Eagles matchup against Minnesota, it was a tight game, but late in that one, the Eagles really flexed their muscle, a one-on-one throw to A.J. Brown, and this was the game where they really just pounded Philadelphia's go-to equation, which is the two dynamic wide receivers, arguably the best duo in the league typically between Smith and Brown, and then trying to get the run game going. A lot of it was struggles on the ground and a lot better through the air. That was a game where Hurts 3 touchdowns and he only had 4 incompletions against Minnesota. Didn't turn the football over, had a perfect 158.3 passer rating. Now, Caleb's performance against Minnesota, not quite as good. He was 50% completion. So honestly, when we look at this equation, these are both wins, but they're a little bit different, right? Chicago's win, obviously, not nearly as emphatic. Philadelphia in control at the end of the game. Now, let's also look at an injury for this game between Chicago and Philadelphia that will play a key role. Lane Johnson, one of the best right tackles in the NFL, he's out for 4 to 6 weeks for Philadelphia. They lose a great player, a terrific pass blocker, and Montez Sweat typically lines up on the left side of Chicago's defense. That means he typically goes up against the right tackle. So that's a position now that gets filled in by Fred Johnson. He's in a matchup against Montez Sweat often throughout this day. That is a key one to look at where there is a slight edge Chicago's way. Now, I got to be honest with you. I am recording this video because of a scheduling conflict and couldn't record this video after the Cowboys-Eagles and after the Bears-Steelers game. So I'm actually recording this before. I don't know what those results are going to be this upcoming Sunday to fully talk about the details. So I'm going to talk about these previous matchups. So if there's any injuries, I apologize if that impacts, this entirety of the video, but I'm working with everything that's available to me before these upcoming games. So if Jaylon Johnson and Kyler Gordon were back out on the field this upcoming Sunday or for this upcoming game, that's not available to me yet. It doesn't look like they will, but again, obviously, I'm not a fortune teller here. I'm just a passionate person trying to deliver you the best preview possible for this game. Let's also look at this Philadelphia defense because this is, I think, the key part of this entire game. We know that Philadelphia's offense could have a very good day. Most likely, it looks like something that's 24, 27 points. I would imagine that the Chicago is able to get a takeaway or two. That's been sort of the theme that they can do this year. Probably not through a Jalen Hurts interception. He's only got one of those on the season, but it certainly is possible because of how opportunistic they are. Byard leading the league with interceptions, and then you have Nahshon Wright, as well as Tremaine Edmonds tied for second in the league with 4 picks apiece. But this Chicago Bears defense in defending Philadelphia, of course, it all starts up front with Saquon Barkley. And Philadelphia, without Lane Johnson And this immediately poses a concern. The Chicago Bears defense has gotten better as the season has gone on. Getting Austin Booker back a few weeks ago, him having an impact against Cincinnati, a strip sack, he's been a pivotal part on the other edge opposite of Montez Sweat. So Philadelphia on the interior, what concerns me is them getting stopped on a tush push twice against the Detroit Lions. And if you look at the eye test, right, Chicago and Philly in their games somewhat recently, both against the New York Giants. Philly blows out the Giants. The Bears need a 10-point fourth quarter comeback win. Theatrics from Caleb to be able to pull that one out. So 2 recent games, both of them to get home wins against the Giants and road wins against the Minnesota Vikings, but they stylistically look a little bit different. I imagine a lot of you will also watch college football, but if you don't, there's a phrase that's considered one of the most important when evaluating teams to get into the college football playoff. It's the eye test. If you were to look at the eye test for Chicago and Philadelphia, there's no doubt that Philadelphia passes the eye test more on the defensive side of the ball and appear to be a team that can be complete enough, right, consistent, and you stack up what they've done in the last several seasons with Hurts at quarterback and the success of this team compared to Chicago year 1 with Ben Johnson, that the offense can stack up very well. Now, why I talk about the 2 push tushes, tush pushes are a very important part of Philadelphia. They often only have to go first and 8.5 instead of first and 10 because of how effective that play is. If it's 3rd and 1, they can tush push it twice and they're going to just pick up a first down just about every time. But those types of plays, turnovers, the things that are very hard to predict that we can't ever expect or them to come up, and they do happen. That is a way that Chicago, that's been a very good team in one-score games, specifically late fourth quarter, that's where they've actually felt quite comfortable. Now, the key there is getting it to that stage. Can they be in a one-score game with Philadelphia on the road? That's the key, trickiest part of this entire thing, because if Philadelphia is able to stay away from the turnovers, converting on 4th down, in the red zone, having a good touchdown percentage, like this is a game, Philadelphia, that eye test that we talk about, they win this game 27 to 17, 27, 20, something like that, where it's relatively comfortable for them the entire way. But again, Chicago in this explosive offense, I don't quite see how they replicate that league-leading explosive play percentage. They've got the most explosive plays in the NFL, and that against Philadelphia is something that's very key and something that is tough to rely on. A Vic Fangio defensive coordinator-led team, of course, he goes back to the 2018 season with that famous Chicago defense that led the league in takeaways, and in a large part was a part of why they were a Super Bowl contending team. And Philadelphia ended their season, the double doink. We all remember that one at Soldier Field. Heartbreaker for Bears fans. And Philadelphia, frankly, should have beaten New Orleans. I think they had a 14-point lead, a drop pass by Jeffrey in the fourth quarter. That was a game they should have won. But overall, though, you look at Vic Fangio in his style, it's a heck of a lot of cover 2. 2 high safeties, zone defense, making it very tough on a quarterback to get those explosives. And with the 2 high safeties, you're added in, and they're not run support, but they are preventative towards the bigger chunk runs beyond 10 yards. So Chicago will have to methodically march the football down the field. And doing that against the best interior defensive line in the NFL, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, is a very tough ask. Now, of course, the additions, Drew Dalman at center, Tooney left guard, the All-Pro, and Jonah Jackson, who's filled in very well. This becomes a pretty tasty interior matchup. I know interior offensive line, interior defensive line isn't exactly the most fun thing for most people to talk about. I love this part of the game. Talking about Lane Johnson's injury, how it impacts the pass rush for the Bears. Can they take advantage of that? The Bears, how do they do offensively, being able to get a push? Remember, this is the number 2 rushing offense in football, right behind Buffalo. The run game is pivotal for them. They have no problem running the football on 3rd down and 3, 3rd down and 4. They've shown it throughout the season because oftentimes you've got 4 plays to run with Ben Johnson. And they love the balance it provides. Caleb under center, 2nd and 5, 3rd down and 2, keeping it well on schedule and taking the load off your quarterback. That is the theme that they will need in this game for Philadelphia. Now, what's a similar trait between these two quarterbacks? Jalen Hurts, go back to his days in hard coached by Nick Saban there at Alabama. He's got it rooted into him to not turn the football over. We're always going to have a good defense there with the Tide. They're going to have a good defense here with the Philadelphia Eagles. Vic Fangio-led team. They're going to be in every single game and probably in a position to win every game unless they turn the football over. For Chicago, Caleb, he doesn't turn the ball over. Oklahoma didn't do it there. USC didn't do it there. And early on in his first year and a bit over a half season into his 2nd year, doesn't really throw those interceptions or take the sack fumbles that Justin Fields or Mitch Trubisky, Jay Cutler, all of these quarterbacks were. The propensity to turn the football over just isn't there for him. So all of these signs for me, and you look at this, you break it down, I'm sure a lot of you would agree that Philly, again, we talk about that eye test, they're a better football team, more experienced. They've got the full offensive line and defensive line shored up. The injury to Johnson hurts, but again, you're still talking about one of the best teams and organizations over the last decade full plus. So Chicago is not better than Philadelphia. It looks like if this game goes a traditional way, that the Eagles again win it likely by 1 score. Now, how do the Bears sort of spin the needle a different way and find a way to win this game? Or how does Philadelphia blow the Bears at? I think that's more of the wild card possibility for this game, one of these two results, a Philadelphia blowout or a Chicago win. Let's start with the Philadelphia, how they could put this game a little bit out of reach earlier on. Well, it's going to start with a quicker start. An example of that would be against the Green Bay Packers. All of those stops that their defense kept getting those stops. You look up, it's only 3-0, and they get that late touchdown to Devonta Smith, and it's stalling out, 3 and outs, and punts, not consistently picking up yards on 1st down, being efficient with their possessions. Jalen Hurts not being on the same page as his wide receivers. Inaccurate a couple of times. Now, the takeaways weren't there. They didn't turn it over, which was the key, because when their defense is playing that well against Green Bay, kept them fully in it. And then against the Detroit Lions, that's a specific game. You think about them getting the ball at, around the 12-yard line on the Cooper DeJean interception on Sunday night against Detroit. They wound up taking a field goal and kicking it. They have another possession. It's a 6-0 game. One explosive play from Detroit, and it's a 6-6 football game without the stupid BS stuff from Jamison Williams jumping on the goalpost. Philadelphia would have been trailing 7-6 in a game that they honestly were pretty much dominating and outplaying the Lions. That's a key here for where Philadelphia, how do they stretch this thing out and get themselves up 17-6, 17-7 potentially at halftime? It's taking advantage if they do have short fields to work with, because the 3-and-out will come. Chicago's offense is consistent, but the 3-and-outs do come every game. There are lulls throughout. For the most part, they do start off games relatively hot with the script, but somewhere in there in about the 2nd quarter, there's a drive or so that the offense doesn't quite always seem in sync. Now, can that get corrected and fixed for Ben Johnson? He's spoken at length about how this team has not yet played a complete game. So the Eagles, their opportunities, short field, they got to be scoring touchdowns and put this team away. You got to kill the Chicago Bears. You have to put them away. Otherwise, they hang around. You got to put this team fully to sleep. Put the syringe deep in them and put them fully to sleep, and they're hibernating, and that's your chance to kill them. But if they're somewhat awake and you're trying to choke the life out of them and they're somewhat awake, there's a certain surge that comes for this program, for this organization in key moments, and that is led by their quarterback. And now we talk about how Chicago can potentially find themselves winning this game. It's a 50-50 ball. It's Rome Odunze, and Ben Johnson doesn't love 50-50 balls, but there are one-on-one shots to Odunze, and it's been a trait coming out of college that was talked about the most. Odunze had the highest percentage of contested catch receptions in 2023 at Washington. He led college football in receiving yards, right? The third receiver taken, Neighbors, Harrison. These were touted almost like in a generational way. Odunze, very good player. Chicago's celebrating that Atlanta unbelievably takes Penix and doesn't take a guy like Odunze. So it's him coming up with one of those catches. 3rd and goal from the 7-yard line. Is he able to come down with the football when Quinyon Mitchell, arguably the best corner in the NFL this season to this point, is defending him? You make a play like that, it gives a jolt to your team, to the fans in attendance, to your sideline. I mean, those types of plays change games. I feel like Rome Odunze is a guy you immediately key on. A contested catch, a 3rd down, the difference between, let's say the Bears are down 10-7, second quarter, mid stages, 3rd and 11. Can he come up with the catch or not? Keep Chicago on the field to stay on the field, continue possession, put up points, and keep Jalen Hurts on the sideline. Those types of plays, 3rd down and long, a guy going out there and just making a play can flip the football game. Now, you can say the exact same thing about A.J. Brown to the defense of how Philadelphia blows them out. If A.J. Brown is able to make those types of plays, you've seen the opportunities. And I think that there's been an incorrect narrative about the connection with Hurts to Brown, that he's not getting targets. The man's getting targets. He's getting opportunities, but the catchable ball percentage is lower, and they're just not in sync. The continuity, Hurts and Brown, what should be one of the top 5, top 6 best quarterback receiver connections in the league, because of the talent of Barkley creating favorable matchups for him with an extra guy in the box, or Devonta Smith getting one-on-ones, because you certainly can't double both. And if you leave single coverage for Smith, I mean, he's going to kill you. The Heisman Trophy winner has proven at every level of football in his lifetime that he can beat anybody when he's single covered. He's fearless going in the middle. If you've seen my videos, the number one way I describe Devonta Smith is fearless. Why is that? The dude goes over the middle. The man takes shots. But A.J. Brown, can he come up with one of those types of plays? So those types of scenarios, a 3rd and long where a guy makes that type of grab, their offense stays on the field and keeps their defense off of it. So that's where I key on to a couple of statistics here. Chicago's 5th in the league in time of possession. Where does that come from? Of course, it's the rushing yards, right? It's the pace of play, where 31 minutes and 43 seconds a game, they hold on to the football. That's a full minute more than Philadelphia. They're 14th in the league at 30-47. I think this is a key part of this game because, again, when you've got that good of a defense in the Eagles, what helps them against the Lions? Well, it's the fact that it's a little bit colder. Jared Goff, a lot of incompletions in that game. It allowed Philadelphia to possess the football a little bit more. Could they have definitely held up their end of the bargain more in that game or against the Green Bay Packers? There's no doubt about it, but that is certainly a way. If I'm Chicago, I want this game to be over in 68 minutes. I want this game to fly by. This game to be over in 90 minutes of full time, from a 2:30 kick to the game being over at 5 o'clock. Like, have this game be wrapped up. Have this entire one wrapped up, or 3:30 kickoff there. I believe local time, right? So that's the idea. You drain the possession. They're going to come out and try and run the football. They're going to say, are we man enough? Are we tough enough? The message from Johnson to his team the entire week will be, are we tough enough? Whereas Sirianni, it's the same message every week. It's competing. It's out manning, out physicality. This other team, they just don't have what it takes to go pound for pound with us. And the main knock on Chicago, right? All these one-score wins, they've had one of the easier paths to this point in the sense of schedule. Bears fans do not give a bleep about that. They just want to win games. They're used to the last 35 years of losing winnable games, of losing to teams that they should beat in heartbreaking fashion. Whereas Philadelphia now, they beat everybody. If it's the Rams come back and win, if it's the Packers win sloppy, the Lions win sloppy, Minnesota, they're trying to run through the NFC North. That's something I'll do a quick segue here that's been very fun with this upcoming matchup. It's been really cool on Twitter seeing these two fan bases So the Bears beat the Giants, Commanders, and Cowboys, right? 3-0, helped out Philadelphia to basically win this division by Thanksgiving. And then the Eagles, they beat the Packers, Lions, and the Vikings. So they both helped each other out, went 3-0 against the other divisional opponents. And here's a game where they come together, they go at each other. It's like your best friend you haven't seen in a while, you get together and you have a fun game, and they're able to shake hands at the end of this one. And a business venture that was successful for both of them, helping each other out throughout the season. So that's been something cool to see. These are two cities, Chicago, Philadelphia, that are blue blood, blue collar. They're tough people. That's cold weather. I understand all that. I love Big Ten football. I love Northern football. It's something a little bit different when there's a chill in the air. When it starts hitting early November, you get a little bit of weather, and it's a different type of mentality than what you have in other parts of the country. So this is one of those fun matchups. They've had some great matchups. I was there in 2010. If you guys remember, Michael Vick, that was his comeback player of the year season. It was like 7-3 Chicago versus maybe 7-3 Philadelphia, and it was a great game. I think it was 31-26, came down to an onside kick. There was a touchdown right over Brian Urlacher's head in that one. I remember watching that game and just thinking about Michael Vick and that speed, and seeing number 54 go sideline to sideline with this guy and be able to track. And I couldn't imagine that type of athleticism, a guy being 6'4", 255. And then Michael Vick, I remember watching those games and like, how does he turn the corner on a time or two on Urlacher? And when I had the chance to meet Vic, I talked about him with that game, and it was a cool moment to ask him. He's like, man, that guy, 54 in the middle of that defense, that was a something else type of player, one of my favorites to go up against. So that's what's fun about these games, is these players love going up against good competition. We're not happy at all that Lane Johnson's hurt, or Chicago maybe doesn't have Johnson or Gordon. You want to see these teams at their best and be at their healthiest, so you get the truest evaluation and who's truly the better team. I mean, simply at the end of the day, we want to watch the best quality of football, see the quarterbacks healthy, the wide receivers, the best defensive player, and see the best product possible, and may the better team, the team that plays well on any given Saturday or Sunday, win. Or Friday in this case. That's what it's about. That's the way I've always viewed it. Analytically, I critique, but for the most part, I do try and provide a positive perspective here. So I know Eagles fans, appeasing them is difficult to do. The standard is to win Super Bowls now. It's not to lose. And they want to stretch it to the point of what a Georgia football, an Ohio State, that in Alabama, or a team that, like A&M, blowing people out. They want to be a program, an organization that blows people out, that it looks pretty, you're not having to worry in the fourth quarter. So that's why I tie in where this game can get a little bit funky. And again, where the Bears are finding a one-score late fourth quarter game and feeling comfortable, they're pulling the Eagles into the deep end, which usually it's Philly doing to other teams. Well, in this case, that without a doubt is going to look like those explosives. If you're able to get those explosives, and in potentially situational football. Now, Philadelphia in that Detroit game, the strange call, I mean, I get it. I fully understand. Not going to call it strange. The interesting call to go for it 4th and 1, the way their defense had been playing, and just give the Detroit Lions a short field to kick a field goal. The Green Bay game, they go for it on 4th down and 6, and throw a pass, and it's incomplete. And the Packers got the ball at like the 38-yard line with 27 seconds and had a shot down the field to Christian Watson for a chance to potentially kick the game-tying field goal, send that game to overtime in either case, right? Philadelphia, I'm sure a lot of Bears fans were happy to see that flag thrown. Eagles fans were happy to see that flag thrown. A.J. Brown going for the ball, and there's a pass interference call that basically wraps up that game on Sunday night. But that is the thing about scoreboard pressure, one-score games. Typical decisions are made earlier in the game, and it's fine. The game goes a certain way because it's earlier, players are loose. But when the heart rate rises, when there's a little bit more nervous energy in the stadium, when there's other factors involved because of a score being tight, weird things start to happen in that stage when you don't put a team away. It's like in tennis. If you're up 5-2, win that set 6-2. Don't let this person necessarily hold serve to make it 5-3. Possibilities that there's deuces, a let cord. I don't know how many tennis fans there are out there that bounces over and now they get something lucky. It's 5-4 and you're in a darn dogfight. Put them away when you can. Can the Eagles do that? So I really believe that they won't. Why is that? Because of Chicago's ability to run the football. So Chicago, this is the number 8 defense in the league, a bona fide top 10 offense, 26 points per game. They're top 5 in yards with 374 yards a game. And then it's the defense, right? The ability to take the football away. 15 interceptions. I mean, this is again before the game against Pittsburgh or the Eagles game against the Cowboys. But first in the league in interceptions, number 1 in takeaways, and number 1 in turnover differential because they also don't turn the ball over. Philadelphia does a great job of that as well. I mean, they're 7th in the league, top 10 in turnover differential, and both of these teams have looked for a little bit more production. That's where we'll go into a key Eagle player that you're probably like, why haven't we talked about him yet? We're about to. Jalen Phillips, the addition of Jalen Phillips to this Eagles defense has been massive. Him already being a key impact player in 2 tight NFC games that were needed. And why, truthfully, Philadelphia only has 1 team to worry about. That's the Rams. Can they finish with a better record than the Rams? And the conference is theirs. If they finish 13-4 and the Rams are 13-4, they win the NFC number 1 seed, and that is a massive thing for them. Because you saw the weather, right? If that game didn't have snow, Rams might have been able to find up winning that one. If it's at SoFi, the Eagles did win that Sunday night game, and Eagles fans probably aren't concerned with the Rams. But if I were imagining one team that they don't want to see, it probably would be LA. But Jalen Phillips, that's a guy that didn't play in any of those 3 total LA matchups that you've had the last 2 seasons. He's a player that can stick the needle in their direction, who Chicago will have to deal with. Darnell Wright's been playing very good right tackle. Left tackle has been obviously the main concern. Braxton Jones coming out, Theo Benedict sliding over to that position and being good enough, but it's clear and obvious that they don't have their future at that position. So Phillips, his significance in this game is truly critical. That there's double teams going to other guys, and he singled up one-on-one. A lot of the time, he has the ability to convert on those. We're still talking about a very talented football player, a guy that now going into this Philadelphia Eagle defense, that he's got better guys around him, is just going to make him better because he's going to have more opportunities to attack. And frankly, that's what you do need, in my opinion, to put the Chicago team away, is a takeaway. You look at a team that hasn't turned it over. Well, if they do, you think back to that game against Baltimore, right? It's a 3-point game. They've got the ball at around the 4-yard line. Caleb throws an interception, soloed into Odunze. The Ravens, bam, go down, and they score a touchdown. Now it's a 10-point game. That type of play changes everything. If that interception doesn't happen, it could be 3rd down and 7, and they can wind up tying it, scoring a touchdown. Those types of turnovers, takeaways, completely flip it. Jalen Phillips, if he can come in with the strip sack, force a pressure, a ball that's tipped. Think about Jordan Davis and his ability, a guy that's 6'6", 335 pounds, getting up. Collinsworth hilariously talked about him with his volleyball ability. Why not? Why not? Gotta love Chris. But getting up there, batting the ball 3 times in that Sunday night game, this is as tough as it gets on the road at Philadelphia. And really, why you would be somewhat unsurprised if Philadelphia were to strengthen their muscle is that dominance up front. And again, Saquon Barkley, you're waiting for it the entire season, and the explosive runs haven't been there like they were a season ago, but it feels like there's been some that have been close to popping. It feels like to me, watching the Eagles, that, man, they're a one holding onto a block for a quarter of a second longer from Saquon Barkley turning a 4-yard run into a 46-yard run, and the explosives getting for them. So that's really the type of game changer. in Philadelphia being in these tighter games that feels like against the Chicago Bears defense that frankly hasn't been very good this season. I mean, they're bottom 8 statistically in points and yards. It's what's been a top 8 third down defense in the takeaways that really have helped them. Look, they're getting reinforcements now, which can make this team actually one of the more dangerous teams going into December. Once Kyler is back and TJ Edwards fully healthy and Jaylon Johnson healthy, you talk about that. And then Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson starting to fully mesh and rhythm. They start playing complete football. That becomes one of the most dangerous teams in the league if it all comes together the right way and they're able to stay healthy, which hopefully they are able to do. But Philadelphia, I'm circling Saquon in this game. Chicago, they gave up 2 touchdowns on the ground to Derrick Henry. Gibbs and Montgomery decimated them week 2. This feels like a game where he's able to break off a big run and you take the load off of Hurts, and Chicago then has to force and allocate Jaquan Brisker and keep CJ Gardner-Johnson in the box, and they have to play 7-8 guys in the box. Of course, we know exactly what that does. You've got one-on-ones to Brown and Smith. They're going to be able to take their opportunities, and going up against guys like Nick McLeod, Nashawn Wright, who has been good. The best part about him has been the ability to get a couple of key takeaways, but he hasn't been, obviously, one of the best cover corners in the league. He has been taken advantage of. He's got to be better. I mean, this is a guy that was cut by Minnesota in April and had wound up getting 2 interceptions against them. But that's a part of this game where you circle, because DeAndre Swift, it's somewhat similar, right? This is potentially a revenge game. Philadelphia was fine letting him walk. The Lions, that was a team fine letting him walk. He's got an opportunity to prove to them, yeah, I could have still been the guy. Maybe not put up 2,000 yards on the ground in a season, but still have a big day. That 1-2 combo of Monanghai, the 7th rounder out of Rutgers, shout out Big Ten Rutgers. He's been terrific. Been a little bit more of that Montgomery, right? The bruiser back, the hard yards, the contact. Swift is your straight line, your shifty guy that's able to catch the ball in space and get up the field and make people miss. You think about the Commanders' run for the touchdown last season, the Green Bay run for a touchdown down the left sideline against the Rams. He had one. So that there's been plays for DeAndre Swift. He's shown an ability to have those huge explosives, and they've had them this season. That's why they're number 1 in the league in those explosive plays. So the key matchups that we talked about, Quinyon Mitchell and Rome Odunze, the Chicago Bears front 7 against Saquon Barkley. Now, these 2 quarterbacks, the key here, it could also come down to, right, we talk about 50, like contested catches, that's a key there. How does Chicago fare against Saquon Barkley? And then third, right, the efficiency of the Bears offense. Are they able to get a takeaway, not turn the football over? That's a third key. Now it's the running ability of the quarterbacks, because that's a full wild card. And Jalen Hurts has started to run the football more like we're used to seeing Jalen Hurts doing. And your probably favorite attribute about Jalen is that he doesn't really take that many big hits. He finds a way to get down, to slide, to get out of bounds, and scramble off for 9-10 yards, pick up the first down, and he doesn't take a hit. Very similar Caleb Williams and his ability inside the pocket to get away and evade from pressure and to make guys miss. He arguably might be right there at the top. Like, he might be the best in the league. Maybe another season under his belt and getting used to the speed. But I was talking to someone watching that game 2 weeks ago against New York. I'm like, Caleb seems to actually be really starting to feel like the speed of the game he's getting used to, right? His first year, it felt like he didn't quite gauge the speed of other guys. Now it's like, okay, I understand how strong that guy is, their level of speed, where I need to move, how I'm able to gauge this, how many yards I can pick up before I need to get down or get out of bounds, or who I can all-out sprint and I can get to the edge on and turn the corner. And doing that, it looks like a guy that's able to speed up. You think about Jalen Hurts coming into the league, struggling a bit, right? First year, second year, but then he starts to rely on his ability to run the football. He's able to be more consistent with that. You add in weapons for him, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith comes in, the offensive line, Jordan Mailata develops into an all-pro level left tackle, great run offensive lineman. And then that's been a key part of him. In big moments, he has the ability to go run and pick up first downs. And that is a key trait. You think about Aaron Rodgers, a guy younger in his career, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. These quarterbacks in the biggest moments, not like Jackson Dart scrambling and willingly taking contact, or Jordan Love just running into guys or being a little tricky by the sideline and winds up taking big hits. No, they know when it is the correct time to go get those 7 yards or to actually take that hit and know it's go time. If 5 minutes in the fourth quarter, or it's a big third down that we need to pick up, 2-minute drill in the end of the first half, that this is when to pick up. So they, I think, have a really good ability to pick up those yards, right? So typically right now, the thoughts on Hurts isn't, he's not a top 5 passer of the football, but his ability to process, limit the turnovers, and just win games, he's a top 5 winner. Jalen Hurts is a top 5 winner in the NFL because of his knowledge of his offense, understanding his defense. He's got something that Chicago quarterbacks for years didn't have, like Trubisky with a great defense, or Rex Grossman, or Kyle Orton, or Jay Cutler. Like, these guys didn't understand for a lot of those years. You know, Cutler, year 2013, 14, 15, those were some bad defense, but 2009, 2010, 11, 12, Briggs, Urlacher, Tillman, Tim Jennings, Julius Peppers. Like, they had monster Julius Peppers off the edge. My goodness, was still one of the great players you've seen. Jordan Davis has a little bit of that. Carter, like, those guys, they have a little bit of Julius Peppers in them. I mean, that's a Hall of Fame player, but I think you understand what I mean by, like, Hurts is able to understand when the play is necessary to take that risk, right? But to also have the knowledge of when not to throw the football away, to go get 2 yards and get down and live to fight another down. That's been a key part of him, and that's something that you've started to see a little bit from Caleb Williams, and being a second-year player and having a clutch gene, a clutch trait. It's unbelievable watching a not just average or mediocre, but a truly good to great quarterback in key moments and situations. Now the key thing is, can you show that ability to make plays earlier in the game? Can you be more accurate the first drive of the game or the third drive of the game? You're up 7-3, let's stretch the lead to 10-7, 14-3. Why does this game need to be close? If you're hitting those easy throws to the outside or over the middle, again, the wide receivers got to do a better job of catching the football. Drops have been an issue. The Chicago offense clearly has Luther Burden III playing in that third wide receiver spot. I'm a huge fan of that right now for Luther to fill into more of a role in this offense. There's no doubt he fully deserves it. Second rounder out of Missouri for a reason. Arguably the best wide receiver in the SEC a year or two ago. Just a kid that's so good with his hands, a hands catcher more than like DJ Moore. More is in the body and running with it. So him developing a role, that's a guy. I'm not going to quite circle him in this one, but Luther Burden, Loveland, Monanghai, some of these rookies and the impacts they can have from where it looked the first 5 weeks with Shamar Turner not playing, and Loveland not a factor, Burden not much of a factor, and obviously Monanghai, and then to where the last 7-8 weeks have gone, where they're turning into bona fide weapons. Burden, Loveland, Monanghai turning into really good offensive players. You think about the sheer talent this offense has. Now, Philadelphia, of course, top end, Barkley, Brown, Smith, they're better. Like, they've got the better weapons. The offensive line, they've got the better key, but they don't have quite the depth that Chicago has, where they're 2 deep tight end, and they've got 3 really freaking good wide receivers and 2 running backs in that stable, and they've got that depth. Of course, at the top end, Philadelphia staying healthy. This is a better football team. They'd beat Chicago probably, you would say, 7 out of 10 times, most likely, in the way that it typically goes. And I don't think that that's a crazy thing to say. I don't believe that there's much slack to be given. The even fact that we're having this long of a conversation about ways that this is a tight football game goes to show you there's a new era of Chicago Bear football. The Philadelphia Eagles, that we're talking about them, all of these different ways that a team needs to stay in a game with them speaks to how good they are. That a team that's right there competing for the number one spot in their division to win the divisional title, and we're trying to come up and really look deep into the weeds, how they will manage to keep the game close and to potentially beat them by 3-4 points. Like, this game is either going to be won by Philly, close blowout, or they're not going to get blown out by Chicago. It seems highly unlikely. That just speaks to Nick Sirianni, to Laurie, and having the faith in this staff. I mean, Howie Roseman, the ability to get a guy like Jalen Phillips and make those decisions, to bring in an A.J. Brown, to go get a Saquon Barkley. Like, he has been probably the best GM. Holmes has done a very good job for the Lions, but you put a lot of credit towards Philadelphia and where they are from earlier parts, of my life to where they are now, a bona fide juggernaut in the making, continuing to draft really well. A guy like Jahad Campbell, of course, Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean. These are all still some players that are rotating. You don't necessarily hear about them for a game or two at times because of all of the other weapons, all the other guys like Reed Blankenship in the back end, that I'm sure half the people that watch football don't even know who Reed Blankenship is. He's one of the better safeties in the league. And still, they've got depth. If, forbid he went down, Sidney Brown, the kid out of Illinois, was on one of the better defenses in the country, playing for Brett Bielema, the Illini a couple years ago. Michael Carter, McWilliams, Keely Ringo, more of a special teams guy. I mean, we're talking about a player that was a monster with Georgia, and he can't even get starting reps because of, Adoree Jackson, because of the ability of the Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, how good they are. These are starters for other teams, folks. So you're sort of looking like an old SEC team, dominance. Their second stringers are better than your first stringers in some cases. That's what Philadelphia has turned into on the defensive side of the ball. They've got too deep everywhere. I mean, we haven't even really seen Ty Robinson. I love this kid at Nebraska. You're a Bears fan, you watch Big Ten football on Saturdays. Ty Robinson was a monster against Nebraska. He was a part of why they almost beat Ohio State in the regular season last year, coming off a loss to Oregon. There's Smile Munden, the kid out of Georgia. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., remember his dad, Jeremiah Trotter. So Smile Munden, not even a guy getting a whole lot of playing time. So this Philadelphia team is going to be good for years, 4 or 5 years. They've done it the right way. And even whether or not, if they lost an A.J. Brown, there's so many good wide receivers now coming out of the draft that you can bring in. And you can look at bringing in a guy to replace that production eventually. Obviously, one of the best, and you hope he stays because of the ability that he presents and the challenge for defenses to cover him. I fear for this Bears secondary and this defense to cover him. It puts the onus on Sweat, on Jarrett generating pressure up the middle. Javon Dexter, a second-round pick on this defense. And Dennis Allen probably getting aggressive, sending Edmonds, sending C.J. Gardner-Johnson, sending a corner blitz, sending a guy from the secondary, because you have to manufacture pressure. There's no way that you can just let Jalen Hurts sit back there in the pocket with the 4-man rush with those weapons. Whether you play too high and it's too high man, or it's cover 2 and he's got time to sort of wiggle around and he's got mobility and he's able to extend plays. So this is just the type of challenge that I think it's time to really see. All this talk about whether Chicago can stack up with the better teams, here you go. The Super Bowl champs, it's on the road in their building in front of everybody. It's the only game of the day in the NFL. There's still Georgia Tech, Georgia. There's Texas A&M, Texas, some big college games happening this day. This is going to be an incredible day of football. If you haven't checked out some of my content like college, I've got that Texas A&M game that's at DKR. I got that Georgia Tech game out, so you can look at all that content that I'm putting out here. Obviously, a lot of college football that we cover. That's really the best part of it for me. You can let me know down below in the comments how much you like hearing about the college to NFL sort of transition, because all these guys come from, except for Jordan Mailata, like they come from the college football. So I love talking about their ties, like where they went to school, what they were like in college, and what they are like now at the NFL, how that transition looked, and because it just makes Saturdays and Sundays all that more fun, because it's like, oh yeah, Odunze, he was a stud with Penix at Washington and getting to the national championship in a loss to J.J. McCarthy in Michigan in that team. And then his tight end was Colston Loveland for the national title run. And you start to break it all down, and it's just a lot of fun to go through all that. So I want to hear from you guys down below. I love kind of breaking it down in that sense and going through it to that degree. Of course, Philadelphia Eagle fans, I know, probably have watched a little bit of Georgia football or have gotten probably found some sound bites of Kirby Smart to understand who these guys are. Half their starting defense is Georgia Bulldogs, so you would imagine that they key into that. So I'm going to go with my prediction here, and I would imagine that based off of sort of my tonality and from the way that I've spoken, I don't think it's a huge guess for you to think that I'm going to pick the Philadelphia Eagles, but I am going to take the Chicago Bears to lose in a tight one. It's hard for me to pick against this team because of how they can play at one-score games, and I am picking them to lose in a one-score game. I'm going to say 24-20. Chicago loses on the road at Philadelphia. A great game. Once again, these types of games are now starting to really get fun because there's a Chicago team that wins these games. They haven't been winning these games for so long. You're talking about 2018 was the last time that they had a 7-3 record. And before that was 2011, 2012. They were both that record. And 2010 when they had playoff teams. They were in the champ game in 2010. In Philadelphia, they're just at that standard. They're expected to win these games. They would catch a whole bunch of noise if they were to lose this one. That's kind of where I really push back on the media narrative. I picked the Bears to lose 24-20. If Chicago did win this game, would there be talk positively like, wow, the Bears are back? I don't even know what that means because they haven't really been a Super Bowl contender in 7 years or more, or won a playoff game in 15 years. The Bears are back, right? That'd be amazing. I love that. But the feel would probably, you'd think about what's wrong with Philadelphia? What are the Eagles doing? Why are they losing to Chicago? That's what the talk would be. I really despise that when a team goes out there, plays their heart out and wins, and there's something wrong with the other team. It's because the other team didn't play well. Now, that could be the case, but in this specific one, it would just be the way that Chicago wins. Philadelphia has a good game, and they emphatically beat Chicago. The talk, is it about Philadelphia playing well, or are you trying to nitpick and find Jalen Hurts throwing interception, A.J. Brown and questioning his effort, or Chicago just not being a good team? This was expected. I think we really got to give more credit to these teams when they come up with wins, whether it's at home, on the road, whoever they're beating. It is tough to win in the NFL. You saw how tough it was for the Bills to beat the Dolphins. That's a prime example. A game exactly like that. Or for the Eagles to beat the Giants on the road with a rookie quarterback in that first matchup. Who would have thought that those two results would have happened? Earlier in the year, you talk about New England beating the Bills on the road. Now, Buffalo is starting to see a trend there. Philadelphia sees Buffalo, I believe, week 17. But that's kind of to my point here, right? We're used to the negative talk. I want to change that. That's what I'm trying to do with Blitz with Blender, is provide a critique and analysis, prediction, preview, but also build these guys up because they do a heck of a job. They're giving us pure fun entertainment on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, these days of the week, pouring out their heart and soul. Yes, they're getting paid millions, but again, when you watch them up close and you see that speed and that physicality and them going at it, it's truly something marvelous. So I love that, and that's what we're going to continue to do here. If that appeals to you, please hit a subscribe, follow for more content in the future. Again, I'm Josh Blender. We do this every day, every week. We're making these posts. I really hope that you stick around and join for more. If you already do, well, you know exactly how it rolls here. I appreciate you guys so much for watching. Again, please have a happy and safe holiday with your travels, wherever that may be. Special time of the year. I really hope that you enjoy that and stay safe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blender, hi everybody, I'm Josh Blender.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the